Dobry din, tovarishchi. Welcome to episode 10 of the Russian Bias podcast. I hope you guys liked that intro I put together. It's an HD intro, 1080p, fits the dimensions of my new monitor, and it's just a nice touch. I think that's much nicer looking. And the music's cool too. I love the Railroad 3 soundtrack. There's just something very Russian about it. Very hardcore Russian about it. If you guys are familiar with the band Rammstein, of course you know what Rammstein is. I think that song right there would be something that would come out of a Russian equivalent of Rammstein. It's just great. But anyway, enough of that. Matt will not be able to attend this week's episode as he's got some band shenanigans going on, and I've got shenanigans going on. That's why this episode is late, but I am, of course, still here recording this, so I won't keep you all waiting on me for too long. I want to get right into it with the introduction to topics. So, as usual, I'm going to go over a little bit of World of Tanks news, but this is going to be a bit of a different episode because it's going to be more of an opinion piece. There's not really that much on the news department in terms of 9.6 that I can really obtain easily, other than a few pieces of controversy, really. As far as 9.6 goes, as far as content goes, there is a great deal of stuff coming in the terms of aesthetics that I can see, but we will get to that later on. I'm going to give a general overview of what I think of the situation regarding two things. The removal of the E-25 Tier 8 German premium tank destroyer, Tier 7 German tank destroyer, the Tier 8's the Jaeger Tiger 88. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I feel about that and what I feel about wargaming removing tanks that they've introduced, and a little bit about the Panther 88 and its introduction into the game. So, 9.6. Currently, the only confirmed content that exists is HD tank updates. There's been no ASAP, like, as soon as possible kind of content update that gives a general idea of what the next patch is going to be about for 2015. So, that's a little odd to me. I guess last year when they put together a video talking about what Wargaming's plans were for 2014, they, in the long run, felt that they ended up neglecting a lot of the promises that they made, and they don't want to do the same thing again. That's not to say that Wargaming didn't put together a lot of pretty cool stuff and experimented with some pretty interesting things, but at the same time they did say a lot of things were going to happen, and they really didn't. Now, 9.6, as I said, will consist of a great deal of HD reworks. So that much is certain. The list is as follows. AMX 50B, Object 704, E100. Some of these models that you see on the screen are unfinished. Ferdinand, Lova, or Low, whatever, T95, and the Tiger Porsche, Tiger P. Again, also an unfinished model, but still. So far, it looks pretty neat. I'm eager to see how they look in the battlefield. Pretty neat looking. I really like that the AMX 50B is getting an HD rework because there aren't any HD tanks that the French has right now. And the French have been needing a little bit of love for a long time. Britain has 2 lines of tank destroyers, and it has a medium. It has a medium line. It has SPGs. It has heavies. Currently, France is only a mediocre line of tank destroyers, a good line of heavies, a good line of mediums, and a decent line of SPGs, I would say. But France has just been kind of neglected. Now, as I mentioned in previous episodes with Matt, there has been a tank on the Super Test server for a while. It goes by the name of the AMX Chasseur du Chat, a French Tier 8 premium medium tank. So, not a heavy. And what I think is important about that is that this thing allows French medium players, and currently the only medium tanks, really, that exist for France are the Lorraine 40-ton and the Bat Chat 25-ton. What I think this means is that Wargaming plans on introducing another line of medium tanks for France. It's already been speculated about, it's already been talked about in the form of tanks like the AMX 30, which was the main battle tank that kind of came about at the beginning of the Cold War era that rivaled tanks like the Centurion and the Leopard, and so on and so forth. So it came about at that particular time, the 1950s, and would be an interesting tank to see implemented in-game, because obviously France is well known for its more highly mobile, nimble, fast kind of strike mentality with its autoloaders. It'll be interesting to see tanks that perhaps don't really make use of those, but function more as a cruiser-style medium tank akin to the Leopard or the STB-1. Now, we do have a lot of tanks like those now, but nothing wrong with more tanks, in my eyes, as long as we don't end up suffering from power creep, which is inevitable, but we gotta do things that keep people interested in the game, and I think that would be a worthwhile addition to the game, in addition to the mixed European tree that is supposed to be coming later on. But as I said, there's not much to talk about in terms of content updates, other than a great deal of speculation. There are some confirmed map updates, though, Sand River in particular, and Karelia. They show a pattern of making maps more accessible for lights and mediums. If you see the pictures here of Sand River in particular, you'll notice that the green area marked where the oasis is, that's being made into normal terrain. And the hills, the hilly region up at the top of the map, is being flattened out a little bit more. So the basic theme is a little bit more medium-centric kind of maps. Now, or maybe not medium-centric, but just more welcoming to mediums. Now, I don't know if Wargaming is kind of going a little extreme with a lot of these map reworks. Maybe they're just going along with the new meta that they're creating for the game. Blob comps and mediums and light tanks are certainly popular, especially in competitive play, but we'll just have to wait and see how things go. That's really about it for 9.6. So, now let's get into the meat of the piece. I don't really have anybody to work off of today, obviously, so not a whole lot to really go for with that, but I want to splurge a bit about the removal of the E-25 from the store. It's happening by the 15th of January, so if you haven't already bought the thing and you want to buy the thing, you should probably go out of your way and do it now, but you might want to save your money on more special things, more important things than an internet tank. Just a little bit of advice, just an opinion from me. Because I don't think the E-25 is particularly a worthwhile tank to get as a tier 7. Now, this is coming from someone who owns the tier 8 FCM 50-ton, the French heavy tank. But I'm gonna specify something here by saying that I think what is going on here with the whole E-25, remove it from the store, it's a bit ridiculous. It's really silly. I'm gonna suggest to you why you shouldn't buy it. This is very sketchy to me. Why would you say, okay, we need to get rid of this tank for balancing reasons, and then encourage a bunch of people to buy it by a certain deadline for a pretty lengthy amount of time, mind you? Like, this has been circulated for a while. So it's not just impulse buyers here. It seems like a sort of money grab for what is clearly a very powerful tank. The E-25 is, by no stretch of the imagination, a subpar tank. People know that the tank is pretty good. So, naturally, the most logical response to some people when they see this thing going on sale is, oh crap, if I ever want to get this thing, it creates a caste system. You see, it creates like this weird sort of like caste system between players who have never seen the tank in their life and don't know how to play against the thing. It was already a tough tank to deal with in the beginning. And the people who do know how to play the machine and know very well how to take advantage of the tomatoes that don't know how to deal with it. I do not see the purpose in removing the tank for balance reasons, because what would be so damn difficult about just tweaking the characteristics of the tank itself. Now, this is normally something that I see only done with premium tanks. The Type 59 went through a similar treatment. So, I guess it's different than a nerf to a tank that exists in the grinding line. Obviously, people are going to go out of their way to go through the line, and then, you know, you can't just remove the tank from the line without adjusting the line, right? If you have a tier 8 tank of any kind, and you just kind of take it out, then, you know, what the hell are you going to do later on? A similar treatment happened to the... to what I'm speaking of happened to the T-34, in which the T-34 was changed from a tier 10... Or not the T-34, I'm sorry, the T-30 was changed from a tier 10 American heavy tank to a tier 9 tank destroyer and was replaced by the T-110E5, but the T-30 still exists in-game. You can get it through normal progression means. Tanks like the E-25 are not going to be obtainable unless they put it up in a special sale or something. Now, I've never been a huge fan of this kind of practice, for the reasons I've mentioned earlier. And there are a lot of tanks like this. The KB5, Type 59, now the E-25 is going to join that little cult of Cool Kids Club tanks. And no, I'm not mad because I don't have the disposable income to purchase the thing. It's $40 is not... It's not a huge amount of money, but it's also a huge amount of money, you see. What is worth $40 to you? A tank that is clearly being an internet icon thing, vehicle, whatever, an element of the sandbox that is being removed for sketchy reasons, or anything else you can get for $40. I don't know. It's an investment. Getting a vehicle in a free-to-play game, or anything in a free-to-play game like that, is an investment. And that is perfectly understandable. I have put in a great amount of money into games like World of Tanks and games like War Thunder, League of Legends, and so on and so forth. But I don't encourage the practice of impulse buying, even though I'm guilty of it myself on many an occasion. And I don't encourage the practice of sketchy marketing techniques like this one, because it seems like a marketing gimmick to me. It doesn't seem like a balance issue or a balance choice. I never found the E-25 to be overpowered. I found it to be a little bit unbalanced. But overpowered is a very strong word. Oh, what's the difference between balanced and overpowered? Well, you see, words mean something now, don't they? When I say overpowered, that strikes you a little bit stronger than unbalanced. Artillery in World of Tanks, to me, is not overpowered. It is unbalanced. There are things that they could do to make it more... things that they could do to make it a more integral element of the game's meta, in the game's sandbox. Just something to think about. You can buy the E-25 if you want. Please, don't treat me like some kind of all-knowing dictator on the matter of your free-to-play game economic policy. There are plenty of people out there that are willing to shell quite literally $2,500 in Star Citizen on an internet chip. Now, I think that's just dumb, because there are a lot of things you can buy with $2,500 as opposed to an internet chip. But $40 for a tank is whatever. Get it if you want. Personally, I wouldn't, because I think this is just a little... It's just a sudden impulse cash grab that's being done by Wargaming, and as much as I enjoy the product that Wargaming has put out, I am not willing to participate in such foolishness. And that's all I really have to say about the E-25 getting removed from the shop. A little bit silly in my eyes, but hey, it's an internet tank. You're not going to have to answer for your crimes at any point. If you really, really want to get the thing, knock yourself out. But at the same time, it's silly. Why? Silly, silly, silly. The World of Tanks Cool Kids Club. Alright. Whatever. Now that I'm done talking about that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Panther 88 and why it's weird and I don't... what? Okay. Here's the thing about the Panther 88. There are numerous candidates you have for a Tier 8 premium medium tank, excuse me, for Germany. And yet, they decide to go with this really, really strange idea for such a thing. Now, I'm going to put something into perspective, right? This is a Panther. It is a Panther. This is the same hull that you get at Tier 7. And it's bumped up to Tier 8, but the only difference is that it has a better gun. The 88 gun. The same gun that is mounted on the Tier 8 Jaeger Tiger. However, the thing that I find a little strange about this, Tier 7 tank being bumped up to Tier 8. No premium matchmaking. You know, same hull and everything. Tier 9 tank. Jaeger Tiger. Bumped down to Tier 8. Gun obviously nerfed, but still, the same hull is very well armored, and it's a pretty solid vehicle at Tier 8 nonetheless. What the heck? Hold on. And you're not even giving this thing premium matchmaking? No, well, the tier 8, the 88 millimeter is capable of pinning Tier 10s. Well, okay, but the Jaeger Tiger 88? It's the same gun. It gets premium matchmaking. What makes the Panther, this new version of the Panther, any more acceptable in a Tier 10 game than the slow-moving Jaeger Tiger? Oh, it moves faster? Wait, what? Hold on. The Panther is intrinsically a sniping medium tank. That is what the German Panther medium line is essentially pretty good at. It starts with the VK3002M, a solid tank in its own right, a sniper. The Panther is also a sniper. The Panther 2 gets a little bit more armor, but it's still a sniper. Then you get into the E50 and the E50M, they get more armor. They're very solid tanks for their tiers. They're very tough. They have a great amount of armor for their tier. They're very versatile, very flexible machines. But they still focus on the gun handling characteristics. So, what is really strange about the implementation of this machine to me is that you have a tank that I believe it's a little bit more maneuverable than the Tier 7 Panther. Do not quote me on that. But even if it was, my point would still stand. You were taking the hull of a medium that functions at Tier 7 that can't bounce that much unless it side scrapes. And it's not exactly the fastest machine in the world either. It can get up to speed. It's heavy, yeah, and it can ram when it needs to. But the Panther, in the context of World War II, was a very heavily armored medium tank that rivaled tanks, heavier designs. Of the time period, in the context of World of Tanks, the Panther is fighting against, Tier 8 machines like the Centurion. And then you're taking that same hull, you're bumping up the gun a little bit, and putting it at Tier 10. That is really my only gripe with this machine. I truly do not... I would probably debate purchasing the thing, because I'm going down the German medium line myself, and I would like a crew trainer for that line. But I also have other crew trainers to choose from, like the Panzer Schmalturm, which is... it's gross. Not exactly a fun tank to play. Or the Panther M10, which is a Panther, again. I would much rather, if the crew lined up, I would much rather drive the Panther at Tier 7 than the Panther at Tier 8, fighting against Tier 10s. That's why I got the Panther 2, which is supposed to be an upgraded version of the Panther. The only upgrade that this Panther has is an 88 gun. What? I am so confused by this. And for the price point? Originally the price point was even higher. Originally, if you're on the North American server, in the US, the Panther 88 sold. It sold for the price of any other Tier 8 premium tank, about $50. Just a little silly, if you ask me. There are plenty of other people out there who would encourage you not to buy it, and I am also encouraging you. This is the kind of stuff that gets taken out of my scripted videos. That would be considered an outtake. I would not advise you to buy this either, even with the price reduction. 2 reasons, really. It's uncomfortable to drive, and it's just hopeless without that limited matchmaking against Tier 10s. Good luck flanking anything. It's not mobile enough. Now, generally a low penetration gun. I mean, I can work with the low penetration gun as long as I have it on a platform that is capable of flanking and shooting its side armor and rear armor. That's why I don't mind the Comet as much. A lot of people tend to think of the Comet as an they tend to think of the Comet as an over-tiered Cromwell, and that's a fair complaint. However, it has a great amount of gun depression and a strong front turret, which makes it good in hull down positions, and if you load premium ammo, you can do well in those scenarios against other tanks that are facing you in the front. And you can flank them, because the tank is still mobile enough in itself. But you can't do that with this. You have a sniping tank that can't move and can't really pen Tier 10s very well. That's the reason why the Jaeger Tiger 88 has premium matchmaking in the first place. So, why this tank? And honestly, I mean, there were tons of other options we were going for, like the Panther with the ridiculously huge engine in it. I forget the specific name of it. It was called the Turbo Panther. FTR talked about it a little bit. The Leopard prototype also talked about on FTR with a 90mm gun. Just silly. And this tank was not available for playtesting on the dev server in 9.5. Why? I don't know. Is this a pattern that's commonly repeated with the implementation of new premium tanks? I don't think so. But this says something a little bit strange about the way that Wargaming has their tech trees, the way they have their meta set up. It's very bizarre. Germany is just a giant mess. It is a gigantic mess. And 9.6, to me, or at least recently, it seems that Wargaming has kind of given a bit of a not exactly a friendly demonstration to the German line in this game. I'm going to go into Tank Inspector real quick just so I can show you, just so I can demonstrate what I feel about this through the way the tech trees are implemented in the game. So if I go into Tech Inspector here, I'll log in. Da-da-da-da. Germany. You look here. And obviously you got the Panther 88 implemented here. And this isn't visible on the screen right now because I'm not recording it, but I'm just going to read off what I see. Here, when you compare the Panther 88 to the Panther 2, what does this thing have over the Panther 2? Now, obviously, take into account that premium tanks aren't supposed to be as good as their identically tiered counterparts. That's the whole point of premium tank, is that you don't get pay to win. However, the penetration of the 88 gun on the Panther 88, this is an 88 gun, it has an identical gun to the Panther 2, the 88mm. So that means it has the same penetration value, 203, same damage, 240, a little bit faster damage per minute, okay, because it has a teensy-weensy higher rate of fire at 9 rounds per minute versus 8.5 or 8.6 more accurately. The gun is a little more accurate. .307 is a great amount of accuracy, faster aiming time. But the Panther 88 is also slower than the Panther 2. It has a slower It has a worse power to weight ratio. It has a little bit better terrain resistance. And it has a little bit more, if I can... Actually, no, it doesn't. It has less frontal armor than the Panther 2. Now, I'm going to look at it and see how that looks sloped. So, at the highest, about 140 towards the top. And the lower glacis is pretty much auto-pen at 90 millimeters. The Panther 2, 180 at the top. And about 90 again with the lower glacis. So, again, I can't really give you a reason. 170, close to 100, and yeah, 180 millimeters of penetration. I'm sorry, of armor at the highest, at the thickest, when you're looking at this thing dead on, flat. The Panther 2. That is about 30 millimeters more. More than that. That's about 40 millimeters more. 45, even. Than what you got here on the Panther 88. So, you have an already easy-to-pen tank at Tier 8. And you have an even easier-to-pen tank at Tier 8. That's supposed to be a premium. It's supposed to give you benefits of buying a premium tank. It's dumb. It's, ugh. Why? No, don't. Please don't. Now, I won't begrudge you for buying the E25. I won't begrudge you for buying this thing either. Who knows? You'll probably think, some of you already have this tank in your garage, and you think it's the best thing since sliced toast. That's great, but I don't understand why. I mean, I don't judge you for it, and I'm not your overseer, your World of Tanks financial overseer, but God, just don't. That is my strong recommendation. If you want to get a German crew trainer, I would definitely recommend the Panther M10 over the Panther 2. I don't know if the crews match up entirely, but you can live with it. Just don't go for Brothers in Arms when you transfer them over to your Tier 10 or your Tier 9. But my God, this is just silly to me. And it goes without saying that the way the German tech tree is set up is just bizarre. It's just really, really strange. If you look at the German tech tree, you see you have basically, you have 2 heavy lines, you have 2 medium lines, you have an SPG line, and 2 tank destroyer lines. So Germany has a lot of content. It was one of the first nations to be implemented in the game, next to the USSR. However, the way it's all set up is just discombobulated and strange. If you want to go down the medium line, the de facto medium line for the Germans with the Panther and the Panther 2, so the E50 line, I guess is the better way of putting it, you have to go through the Derp Wagon, the Dirkwaswagen, I'd probably pronounce that wrong, which is a colossal pile of crap. Just awful in every respect. To the VK3001H, which isn't really a bad tank. It has a very good gun, and you can make it work. The 75cm Waffe is very good for a Tier 5 tank of any kind, heavy or medium. And you get to keep it. Wait, do you get to keep it? I'm not sure what the compatibility for this module is, but the point is, Tier 5 really good gun. To the VK3002M, which is a good gun in its own right. Yeah, you don't get to mount the Waffe on the 3002M, but can mount it on the 3601H. And then the 3001H has more in line with the 3601H, which the 3601H is the starter of a line of German heavy tanks with the Tiger 1, Tiger 2, and eventually the E100. Some of the best heavy tanks in the game, particularly the E75 and the E100. The 3601H and the 3001H operate as heavy tanks. I mean, they're slow, they have good guns, and you can get acclimated to the sniper support style of the Tiger, and eventually the Tiger 2, and eventually the E75, which is just the Tiger 2, but better. Why is the sniping medium line paired up with a 3001H and the DW2, these tanks play nothing like the 3002M and the Panther. In fact, what's more bizarre is the fact that basically the main battle tank philosophy. I mean, there wasn't really main battle tanks implemented in warfare per se until after World War II. But the main progression of German panzers, from the Panzer II to the Panzer III to the Panzer IV to the Panzer V Panther to the Panzer VI to the Panzer VII, etc. What strikes me as very odd is that the Panzer IV, which is a medium tank, which was essentially the frontline medium tank for the Germans for a good chunk of the war, albeit in many ways an infantry support role, but still, it got a better gun mounted onto it eventually, and it functioned pretty well with the 75, the long-barreled 75. Why is the Panzer IV, a medium at heart, in the same line as the Mouse and the E100? Just, what? Weird pairing. Does not make sense. Now, the Mouse, I can see that being implemented in the main Panzer line for other reasons, because that goes along the line in a more sensible fashion. I would say you would go from maybe the Panzer IV to the Tiger, and then eventually the Mouse. But there are tons of other candidates at Tier 5, I think, that could lead into the main medium line for the 3002M. It's just odd. I know that Wargaming has a lot of... They don't have much material to work with here, perhaps. But goodness gracious. Can't you come up with a more streamlined system? I mean, the USSR tree, you can go from a Tier 5 tank, the T-34, and you can get the 268, the 263, the 430, the T-62A, the Object 140, the IS-7. Can you go further than that? No, you... Wait. No! Wait. Yeah, that's it. That is it. You can go from the T-34 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Tier 10 tanks. What the hell? What? I don't even... I'm having a hard time figuring this out. You want to talk about Russian bias on the show called Russian Bias? That seems like Russian bias. But I won't begrudge Wargaming too much for it. You may think of it as a double standard for me to hold Gaijin accountable for that sort of thing, but at least Rule of Tanks is a working game. Now, all that being said, that's just a really complicated way of me telling you to not buy the Panther 88. What the heck? Come on, guys. You got a sensible head on your shoulders. You want a Tier 8 German tank, premium, some kind of credit farmer, get the Jaeger Tiger. 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 I foregoed the Jaeger Tiger in favor of the 50T. But the 50T that went in line with what I was doing with the French medium line. Don't. And that's all I have to say about the implementation of the Panther 88 premium tank. Just why? Why? Come on, the Panzer 4S. Ugh, gross. Buy Panther M10. That is my recommendation. And all that being said, that is my opinion piece for this episode of Russian Bias. I know that there's not much to talk about in terms of content updates, and that's disappointing. And I apologize for really the lack of stuff to talk about on this week's episode, but I am looking forward to doing more in the future. And I thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. Matt will be back in next week's episode. So, stay tuned, and as always, Spasibo, товарищи. До свидания.